actually been put under anesthesia.
I did when I had my wisdom teeth cut out. It's the only time I have.
See, they caught I had my wisdom teeth taken out, but they caught them early, and they hadn't really formed yet. And so essentially, the way the dentist explained to us is because they were not necessarily formed yet, they were able to just do a small incision using local anesthetics and basically pop them out.
I mean, it just depends on how impacted and all of that your wisdom teeth get anyways.
Yeah.
So.
Which, you know what's stupid about that is they took out, or they popped out 4 of my little forming, soon to be a pain in my ass wisdom teeth, and it was all said and done. And then I have a wisdom tooth that grew in.
Yeah, I've heard of that.
So apparently I had fucking 5 of them.
Mm-hmm.
Which I'm claiming as proof from the old gods that I had more wisdom than most people.
Yeah, that you're extra wise.
Oh no.
It's just science. It's science and probably
it's
evolution.
Science.
Yeah, sounds like the same.
This sounds like Trump science to me.
Well, that sounds like the same science I claimed whenever I had that. I went and got the flu test one year because I thought I was coming down with it, and 24 hours later, I didn't have any symptoms, and I'm like, huh. So then another 24 hours later, I went and got another flu test, and it was negative. So I started claiming I was so alpha, a bit, conquered the flu in 24 hours.
You know what they say about people who conquer the flu and people who have extra wisdom teeth?
They're on podcasts.
Huge dicks. Huge.
Oh.
Huge. Humongous. Homunculus members. That's
that would explain why neither of those things have happened to me.
I guess maybe that's also why my back hurts so much.
You gotta lean forward. Hey, have y'all looked outside this morning at all?
Yeah, it sucks.
It looks like America. Is what it looks like.
It's dreary. Yeah, well, you know what I meant is it's just dreary and it's a mist in the air and everything's humid feeling.
You know what that mist is? It's a freedom cloud.
Freedom cloud.
You know what else is awesome? Episode 150 of the Southern Fried Geekery podcast. Man, 150. This is
6 episodes away
from our 3-year mark. That's insane.
Yep.
Just awesome. As always, I am with my extra wisdom tooth, Caleb Alexander McKenzie.
Matt Trogdon.
I'm Craig Lance.
I was hoping Matt was gonna, since I made the extra wisdom tooth joke, he was just gonna throw in a big dick joke, but he didn't. No big dicks for 150.
Trying to keep it clean for the kids.
It is for the kids. You're right. I should be a better person. Probably not, but should be.
Throw everybody off.
Apparently, my mother-in-law tried to listen to an episode.
Whoops.
And within the first 5 minutes, we had said the F word 10 times, and she just gave up.
Sorry, Mom.
Accomplished.
Well, we're for a special crowd. You have to have a very refined palate to tolerate what we do on our little show. Which it might better serve an individual if they can't listen to us. Maybe if they want to go on our Facebook page and check out there, because there's significantly less F-bombs being dropped. There's still some, but there's less.
Speaking of Facebook page, I did a interview with Comic Conway yesterday, a panel.
Oh yeah,
on their Facebook page with Noel was the host, and they're just trying to do some virtual stuff, and apparently the phone decided not to rotate the camera that we used. And so the entire thing is sideways.
Oh, nice.
And we couldn't see the comments because we had it set back so it would pick both of us up.
Right.
So, I guess about 20 comments are, hey, turn the phone.
Now, is this going to be put out?
It's already out
okay.
On the Comic Conway page. So you can go find me talk about, our podcast and also about tabletop gaming.
Nice.
Yeah.
See if you can.
So what is the situation with Comic Conway this year?
This coming Saturday, they're having an outdoor and I think it's just going to be vendors and things like that. I don't think they're actually, and maybe I'm wrong. They may be having some comics guests, but I haven't seen any announcements if they are. But it's going to be at the library outdoors, the Faulkner County Library, and it'll be Saturday. I think I want to say noon to 5.
Okay.
So I probably won't be able to go because of my health, but if you're feeling wanting to enable, go check them out.
I like that they're doing it outside. I think that's smart. I still don't think I'm ready to go hobnob in that big of a group of people.
Yeah.
Yes, I agree.
So, but I still think it's cool, and I'll try to go see if I can't swipe that from their Facebook page, or if they're doing any type of live streaming stuff like that. We'll try to make sure we blast it out.
Yeah, they're supposed to be doing online panels all this weekend. So I don't know which all ones they've already done, but yeah,
that's still cool. It's cool that they're using that to get around this nastiness.
Yeah,
that is everywhere. But while they're doing that, I'm gonna stay at home and read my funny books. Kind of like you guys. Yeah. Have you guys read anything awesome this week? Anything really stood out for you?
Craig, you want to talk about yours?
Sure. I'll go first. So I read The Goddamned, The Virgin Brides #4 by Image Comics, Jason Aaron, R.M. Guerra, Giella Brusco. This book is so damn good, and it keeps taking turns at every issue almost, it seems like, that I don't really expect it to do. Did you guys read this issue?
I'm not. I've just read #3 recently. I haven't gotten to #4.
Okay. Yeah, it takes a turn I didn't expect. I won't run it for you or anything, but it's aptly named. God damn. Then I read Origins #1 from Boom Studios, Clay Chapman and Jacob Rebelka. This book was really good. I'm not really sure what the fuck happened in it, but it was good. I'm really waiting for issue #2. To understand that, you would have to read it. I don't know exactly when, where, or how it's taking place, and it seems like there's they're trying to implant the memories of somebody into a child when they're ready, and that child is supposed to be like the chosen one type thing, but it seems like it keeps failing possibly. So that's what I mean. I don't really know what's going on in it. And then I read Tales from the Dark Multiverse, Batman Hush by Philip Kennedy Johnson, and a plethora of artists and colorers and inkers. I've really enjoyed the Dark Multiverse books. This, to me, I was hoping it would be the book I would talk about this week, but it was not quite as good as some of the others. It was still good, and it was still a fun read. It's always interesting to read what would have happened in different circumstances. This takes the Hush story and really goes back to Batman's origins, and instead of it just being the Waynes coming out of the theater, it's also the Elliots are there as well, and they take in Batman to raise as one of their own. Well, not Batman. They take in Bruce Wayne to raise as one of their own, and Alfred's just kind of left to the side. And what happens there is basically Gotham becomes a fascist city ran by the Court of Owls. So it's interesting. Dick Grayson is the first Gray Son, as they call him, and it's an interesting take. He works for the president of Gotham. If that gives you any idea what happened to Gotham.
Okay.
So yeah, it's definitely an interesting take. It's basically what would happen if there was no Batman.
Weirdness. I'm gonna have to check that out.
Yeah.
Who did you say? Who was the writer on that one?
Philip Kennedy Johnson.
Got it.
It's not. again, some of these Dark Multiverse books have been outstanding, just absolutely the best thing you read that week. This one's not quite at that same, but it's still really good. It's definitely worth the read.
Nice.
Yeah.
What's
What
been
else
reading,
you guys
Matt?
got?
So 3 things that stood out for me that I read recently. I just read Hellblazer: Rise and Fall, book 2 from the Black Label line from DC.
Mm-hmm.
This is the one that Tom Taylor and Derek Robertson are working on. So this is a really good book. Really standard John Constantine story. Nothing too outrageous. It's his low level magic, street level supernatural stuff. He is in pursuit of a demon that has inhabited a child's body. Satan makes an appearance because Satan is in pursuit of this demon as well, because this demon is somewhat of a troublemaker in hell. So he's accumulated enough power to break the plane to come to Earth and inhabit this child's body. Satan don't like that too much. So, there's some really funny interactions between Satan and Constantine. The beginning of the book. Are you guys reading this?
I have not.
The beginning of the book, it opens with Constantine waking up from what he believes is a drunken stupor after he and Satan have had sex. And a little bit of a mind bender for old John Constantine, thinking he had drunken sex with the devil. And
I hate when that happens.
Yeah, right.
We've all been there at some point in our life.
One would assume, yeah. But it's a really good. I really like the character of John Constantine. Unfortunately, the way he is written so very often feels very, very wrong. This feels very, very right, as Tom Taylor is want to do with characters, writing them.
I may pick this up in trade when it's all done.
Yeah, it's fun. It's very violent, very R-rated.
Now we know why Matt likes it so much.
Yeah, that's
very violent.
Yeah, that's my version of flair, I guess you would say.
That tracks.
The second book I want to talk about is from Dynamite, number 21, Red Sonja. So the story has taken a turn. It has gone from what it was mostly a wartime strategy and political strategy book to a she's full on in murder mode.
Mm-hmm.
So that's pretty hot.
Is Mark Russell still writing that?
Mark Russell is still writing it. Yep.
Okay. Because I know he said that his run was about done. So
yeah. Mm-hmm. So yep, she is cutting off all kinds of appendages and midsections, and it's just dreamy. So I would recommend picking up this book. And it also takes the ending takes a very interesting, I would say maybe cliffhanger-ish turn. So it feels like this is, to your point, feels like this is wrapping up soon, and we're coming to the end of this story. But yeah, she really has had enough with political and military strategy, and she's going to go back to what she is historically known to do, which is murder some men.
So in the Red Sonja lexicon, would you place this as one of the better stories you've read overall?
Oh yeah, I mean, it's smart. It's definitely, I hesitate to say better, but I will say it's one of the smartest Red Sonja stories. Most definitely. Yeah. Definitely, it's one of the smarter Red Sonja stories.
Which is fair for anything Mark Russell writes.
Right, you would expect that, yeah. The Mark Russell writing illustrators on this is Alessandro Miraculo with Venancio Federici. I wanted to make sure and mention the illustrator team. And then the last thing I'll mention to wrap up my short stack is from Marvel, number 14, the Marauders line. This is part 13 of the X of Swords storyline. This storyline is getting more and more compelling to me the deeper I go into it. The team in this one is Jerry Duggan and Benjamin Percy, and Stefano Caselli is the artist.
Okay.
So this is legit. The only thing I didn't get read this week was the X-Men books that I still have to read. So I'm going to move them to the top of my stack for next week, so I actually get them read.
Yeah, you're going to want to do this. This one, there takes place. There's the dinner party before the big battle in the X of Swords storyline.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to point out the dialogue in this. Everybody's dialogue feels so on point. All the characters and their dialogue, the way that the characters are illustrated is awesome. Wolverine in particular is illustrated amazingly. I mean, he is illustrated so well. It's another example where somebody wasn't determined to make Wolverine look attractive, but make him look like a rough, essentially old man. And I mean, he's rocking this stupid hair, stupid hairy sideburns. His hair is all screwed up, messed up. He looks unkept. It's awesome. He's drinking booze out of this enormous cup. And there's just an amazing Wolverine moment in this book. It is just awesome. There's a great Storm is prevalent in this issue as well. So there's really cool interactions between those two and between Storm and another main character in the storyline. But the final couple of pages in this book is just got just a killer Wolverine moment. From the art, from the dialogue, they're just killing it over there in the House of Ideas.
They're killing it.
Awesome.
Bringing it back.
I really need to just set aside the time, and because that's all I've got left are the 13 issues of the X of Swords series.
You have 13?
I haven't started it yet. Yeah.
Holy shit.
Yeah, I've got it every week. I get to the X-Men books, and I just kind of like, okay, well, I'll start on them here later, and then I know.
Man,
so
it's a good thing we're still on Zoom. I'd slap the shit out of your hand right now. Bad,
bad, Craig, bad.
Yeah, shake a can full of pennies or something. Correct all this behavior.
Finger wag.
Yeah. I'm going to start spraying you in the face with water every time you tell me you've not read the X-Men books.
Like a bad cat.
Yeah. No.
Greg, you have disappointed Matt.
I have. You hear all that violence he wants to bestow upon me, slapping my wrist and spraying me in the face.
These are things for your own good. We know this.
I get that. Most punishment is for your own good. How else do you learn?
True. Yeah.
Oh boy. There's I'm not going down that road.
That's a softball we just pitched there.
I'm dodging that one. I'm gonna avoid it. So I'm kind of curious. We need to bring back the hierarchy of violence that Matt so lovingly willed us early on when you're on the show. Where do all these things rank on your hierarchy of violence?
Oh, this is way down the list. I mean, you got to put, like obviously headbutts are in the top 2, maybe top 3, depending on my mood that day. But yeah, I mean, slap to the hand, spritz bottle to the face. This is just corrective behavior. So you're putting that way down the list.
Okay.
It's like an ancillary list if we're really getting into it.
Gotcha. And that makes sense. That makes sense. That's I wanted to make sure. I was wondering how just tweaked you were at this, just to
valid question.
If I need to come protect somebody.
Valid question. I mean, I hope he's not going to headbutt me.
No. Then you'd be like, now my eyes are watering, man. Now I can't read X-Men. I'd be like,
broke my nose.
Damn this unbridled enthusiasm of mine.
So I'm about a week behind in all of my stuff with all the reading and stuff, but there have been some really good things that have came out. So it's funny. I have not read most of what you all just talked about, and I need to get on the ball. But a series that I've really been enjoying is this book from Image. It's called Tartarus. We've spoke about the first issue. I think I've spoke about it a couple different times on the show. It's written by Johnny Christmas, drawn by this issue was drawn by Andrew Cranky and Hillary Jenkins, who I'm a big fan of. Hillary Jenkins. That's got a piece of her artwork hanging on the wall. It has brought back one of the main characters from the first issue that because there was a time jump. it brought her back in a big way. And the book is just futuristic and weird, full of commentary on prison in a way, and commentary on revolution in a way. Other than that, it's just lots of fighting, like some angry folks, swords, lots of death. Definitely somewhere on there. Like there's like 5 different things off of the hierarchy of violence that happen in this book. But it's fun, right? It's also the story of a young person trying to figure out how they fit into their own past, to their own story. I really dig this book. It's been a lot of fun over at DC. Mariko Tamaki is just kicking all kinds of ass on Wonder Woman right now. The book just keeps getting better and better for me. It's one of my favorite things that's coming out of DC. Steve Pugh is doing the artwork on this. They're having fun with Max Lord, who has not always been one of my favorite villains. I haven't necessarily enjoyed Max Lord's stories when it comes to Wonder Woman, but with this, they are kind of flipping the Max Lord, I guess, profile on its head, where she's actually having to like low key team up with Max Lord to solve a bunch of problems. And it's Mariko Tamaki is a smart writer. She got her start in OGNs and graphic novels, and for my taste, she had a little bit of a bumpy start, really jumping in and understanding how to write issue to issue. You think back to her Hulk run, it was all in all, in its totality, it was a really good story, but it was hard to read from month to month. I think she's finally dialed in on it. She's finally figured it out, because these Wonder Woman stories have been just better than Wonder Woman's been in a long time. So it's been really fun enjoying that.
Refresh my memory. Wasn't Lord who she killed pre New 52?
Yes. Yeah. That was,
that made her like quit being Wonder Woman for a while.
Yeah. And I'm trying to think, I forget who was the writer on that. Was that Azzarello that did that?
No, Azzarello did the New 52 stuff.
Gotcha.
Yeah, I don't remember who it was, to be honest with you.
They've moved past that. Thankfully, that was something I never really cared for, but it made sense. There's always an argument in nerd circles, like, oh, would she really do this? And I think she would. I think
out of the Trinity, she's most likely to be the one to kill somebody.
Yeah, and I think she would kill Max Lord specifically.
Yeah.
I think it was the big issue there was with how she went about doing it and the circumstances with which it happened. Like, there was an option to save him, and she chose not to. And it was kind of just, murder. So, but I think she would do that. Like, it never felt out of character for me, even though I didn't particularly like where the story went. So yeah, anyway, Tamaki's got a good hold on the character. Tamaki writes she writes strong women really well. And she always has. So I'm enjoying what she's doing on that title. And then over at the House of Ideas, to borrow that from Matt, Strange Academy has just been stupid fun. Scotty Young, Humberto Ramos, Edgar Delgado, they've taken all these different kids from the different realms of magic, and they have stuffed them in a little school to where they're going to learn to wield their powers, and all the different magic practitioners in the Marvel universe are there to kind of help with the tutelage. It's you think of the X-Men and the Xavier School without Xavier being a sociopath and running it. That's kind of where this fits in at. The last issue, number 4, they basically play a giant game of tag, running through the school, where they're opening up interdimensional doors. And so they're chasing each other through like the 9 realms, basically, and dodging monsters there, while like baby Dormammu is trying not to be it. It's a good time. There's also a giant a preteen frost giant in this book that's stupid fun. Scotty has a and he does this with all of his books. He knows how to write for this age. Like, it's not that thing with Bendis where you feel like it's an old man trying to channel what a kid would say. This just feels young. It feels fresh. It feels like he's got a handle on like this age group, and what makes them have fun and what makes them tick. So if you're not reading that book and you just want something that's, I mean, it's within Marvel continuity, but it's just outside it enough that it doesn't feel like anything else that they're putting out. It's something kind of wholly on its own and on itself. I would send you there because it's, like I said, it's just pure fun. And it's exploring a lot of new characters that they're not derivative, but they're connected in some way to some of these old characters that we've seen be both good guys and bad guys, cause problems in and out, but it's taking them and setting them down and teaching them how to be, on some levels it's a coming of age story. Like there's a cooperative aspect of it, but there's also just, sometimes you get to use your stupid powers in really fun ways. And also now, and this may be a little bit of spoiler for it, but apparently Doctor Strange has got somebody like held prisoner in his basement and no one knows who it is. But they're not supposed to know that. And like literally no one knows this, not just among the kids, but like among the people who are supposed to be helping run this school. Like Scarlet Witch doesn't know about this. Hellstrom doesn't know about this. So I'm very curious to know who he's got chained up in his basement and why. What's happening there, Steve?
Interesting. I've heard nothing but good about that series. So,
I mean, it's Scotty, so I'm going to be inclined to like it, just because I like most of what he does, but also, I enjoy the way that he writes. So I was already like, I'm already inclined to enjoy it, but it really is just a good story. So,
awesome.
Yes. It wasn't a good story.
Hell of a transition, but I believe I know what you're going to talk about.
Yeah, so we got together this week, as we normally do, try to figure out a roundtable. There wasn't a whole lot that came out this week that really had it. It was a tough one. Am I wrong?
I like how you're setting up our defense already.
Yeah, this is me laying the foundation here. But no, I mean it wasn't a big week for comics. Like there were a few things that came out that were new, but I mean, really there wasn't a whole lot going on. And I believe it was Craig who had been to the shop and he picked this off the shelf and said, "Hey."
Yes, it was Craig.
You're gonna say that.
But so I'm gonna defend Craig here for a second. But he said,
"No, there's no defense for Craig. This wasn't Craig. Craig just passed on the information, but that's
Craig
okay.
did this to us, and Craig is doing this to our audience."
Oh, there's some? Okay, see, I wasn't in on this. I didn't know there was some buck passing going on. He said, "Hey, let's try this new Marvel book and see what it's going to be about." And the book is none other than John Walker, USAgent #1. Seems like a good week to read about a fascist from the government. Why not? He said, "Hey, check this out." But and here's where I'm gonna jump in to the defense of Craig a little bit. USAgent is a character that when he's written really well, he can be fun. And this book is written by Christopher Priest, who is a writer that has written a book that I like, a couple of different stories that I dearly love. Like the man wrote like the quintessential Black Panther story, in my opinion. It's like there's a history there. So I can see why you see this name, you see Priest on there. You're like, hey, let me pick this up. At least I think it's Christopher Priest. The writer's only listed as Priest, so I'm assuming it's Christopher Priest. And the book was written like a Christopher Priest book. So I'm gonna assume maybe he's just turned into like Prince or Cher. He just has a name now. But I get why this caught the eye, and like I get where this could have been some faith would have been given in this book. Before we dive into it, though, I am number one going to issue a spoiler warning for like the 5 people in the world who are going to go pick this book up, or who grab this. But we are going to talk about things that happen in the book, so you can't do that without laying out some detail. So spoiler warning for both this and really everything we talk about. You can't get mad at us because we said it. Nanny nanny boo boo there. Be mad about it. But what did you guys kind of think about the story? What was your opinion? The 50,000 foot view.
Craig, you loved it. Tell us why.
I loved it so much. I will not be picking up the second issue.
It just couldn't get any better for you. I think that's a good.
Could not get any better. That's right. That it said everything it needed to say in the first issue.
I can see why you picked this one out.
You're just gonna let that hang there, aren't you?
So this one, I was really interested going into this. It's just, this is one of those characters that adds value to the Steve Rogers Captain America character.
Right.
Essentially by illustrating that not everybody can be Captain America. You can't just put on the outfit and be that person. Reading characters like this going in, I'm getting the most appreciation out of these characters because it just illustrates why Captain America is needed in the Marvel universe. And that strikes home with me specifically because I hated Captain America for most of my life. So anywho, but the way this particular story I did not care for. It felt very clumsy. It was just, I just felt like the story wasn't put together really very well. It wasn't very easy to read and follow, and it was not really all that compelling. But
I'm sure it has a market. It's just not me.
Yeah, the artwork was, I thought the artwork was fine. In fact, I thought the artwork was very good. I felt like the way the story was put together visually was done well. But the writing on it was not my cuppa, as Caleb would say.
Good job on the 50-50 roll, Matt.
Yeah, how about you like that?
He walked a fine line with that, didn't he?
He did. He did great.
Kind of the same boat. That last sentence that Matt said in that little line about the story just wasn't very compelling. That's kind of where I sat with it. And I think for me, and we'll get into it later, part of it ties back into kind of the conversation we had last week. I'm not interested in trying to get into the head of a certain breed of person at the moment. I'm also not in the mood for like low-hanging punching down jokes at their expense because I don't think they're funny. And that was a lot of what this book did. And it just felt clunky. Like from story to story, there were jumps made in this story that I don't understand why how they work narratively, because they don't work narratively. And it's it's disappointing because, like I said, I like Christopher Priest. I think he can be a wonderful, wonderful writer, and he's a smart individual. It did not come through in this.
This book feels like it's written by somebody that didn't want to write it, but was kind of told they had to.
Yeah, which I don't understand, but because
writing a story is hard. This reminded me of Christopher Priest, Terminator, Death. I just spaced the DC character,
Deathstroke,
the Terminator. Yeah. It reminded me of this Deathstroke run. I really, really wanted to like that series, but the narration and the way the story flowed in that, I could not enjoy.
I felt the same way about his Justice League run. Because I tried to read that, like I picked that up based solely on the name recognition of Priest, and it was the same way. Like I wanted to, but it just it wasn't there. And I don't know. I mean, I do know the mechanics of it. I think he's trying to shoehorn too many things in to a way that he writes his stories that doesn't necessarily work. He's trying to write it so that it will flow like almost like a Dateline special. He wants it to be very cinematic, but it's not. It just doesn't work like this. And I appreciate the fact that he's playing with the medium. I do like the craft aspect of it, in how he's trying to manipulate timing on the page. Like I respect that, but some things just don't work. But so this story, it's starting off a line that he's calling American Zealot. So that's going to be I guess this is a mini series, but the story's called John Walker, U.S. Agent, American Zealot. Written by, like I said, Priest, drawn by Jorge Jeanty. Carl Story is the inker, and Matt Milla is the colorist, with letters by VC's Joe Sabino, that guy, we all know him. And part of why I really like this was a gorgeous cover by Mr. Marco Cicchetto, who is a badass. Like, you can't ask for better cover work. I mean, you could, but you'd be hard pressed to find it. But the story takes place. It starts off in this little, I guess you could assume, Rust Belt town, much like in the real world, not just in the Marvel world. Small towns based on coal mining, based on an industry, are dying. People are, living in poverty. Jobs are not coming back. And the story starts off, he's interviewing some of these, people that when you hear on the news, you hear them called quote unquote working class people, people in these small towns who are just scraping to make it by. And basically, like the one guy said, look, my family's been mining coal for 6 generations. They interview a woman who's like, we live here. Our lives are here. Everything we did was based on the mine, and, then they just shut down and went away, and they left us here. We can't come back. And they just start, they go through and they're interviewing these, lower, formerly middle class people, and the problems they're having with their lives, until they finally get along with the story and push it forward. And they start talking about, well, we thought we were gone. And then the captain came back and gave us hope. Except the captain that we're talking about is not Captain America. It's kind of like Matt said earlier. It's somebody who's meant to fit into that role, but who fails spectacularly, kind of always. It's John Walker. And so you kind of get a flashback to going and trying to figure out what happened and why these people are there getting interviewed. So after the mine closed, there was this company that moved in. All of a sudden, it's going to save the town. Like, industry is moving in. It's going to replace the dying market. It's going to bring the economy back in this small town. And the company's called Virago. But nobody really, like, it's supposed to be a massive online distribution hub, but nobody really knows what goes on there, because they moved in all of their people, which is something that, look, Amazon does this all day long. Like, we're going to open up this massive business, flood, start 200,000 jobs, but all of a sudden they move in people from out of state, and it doesn't benefit anybody in the towns that they move their thing into. Like, these are very realistic notions. And so from that sense, like I said, I can see what Priest is doing. He's trying to make a commentary on society, which he can do, and he can do very well. It just something in here it just ended up not working, because, and part of the reason why is, for Virago at least, it's because it's not a real company. It was a front. Basically, I think it was a front for Shield at the time before it collapsed, for them to move weapons and products and just do generally shieldy type stuff. I mean, they're the secret police, right? Except something happened in this town, because they got so angry that none of them were getting jobs. These folks just go and they blow the plant up. Like, they blow up Virago, of course. And like I said, they're thinking it's a Amazon hub, right? Like, they're thinking it's an online distribution place. So they just, pipe bomb the shit out of it, leaving a giant crater in the world. And then I guess they assumed that they would just go about their business. But of course, that's not what happened. Somewhere, someplace, sometime, for some reason, they go to Nebraska. The story goes there, where I guess the feds are sitting there, waiting on a phone call, for doing nothing. For some reason they are connected to Ohio somehow. Again, I can't tell you why, but two feds are sitting in their office, and they're like, oh shit, like, there was just an explosion at this former Shield base that we probably should have secured, but we didn't. We just left it sitting there doing nothing. But we have an agent in the area, so we're going to activate him to go figure out what happened. And we don't really have the authority to do this, but we hate our old boss. We're gonna cause a bunch of problems there, mainly because their old boss is Valerie Cooper, and if you've read some history with Shield, the fall of Shield, and I think it really ties back into the story. I forget what it was, where Shield had operated a fake town, and all of their heroes, all of the villains had been mind wiped and were living in the fake town. Like Valerie Cooper was helping run that operation. Well, they just generally don't like her because of what she did to that organization. So they're going to cause her problems, and they're going to activate USAgent. And the USAgent's been living in this little row house like all the time, doing really nothing. He's, I guess, turned into he's always been a bit of a conspiracy theorist, but he's operating under the assumption, I guess, forever now, that somebody's trying to blow him up, and it may be in reaction to him knowing the Virago plant had been blown up, or him knowing something, but he's paranoid, so he's convinced that somebody's trying to kill him through pizza. Yeah, I said it, pizza. So he keeps ordering all of these pizzas, and then when the delivery guy comes in to drop it off, he greets them at the door with a machine gun, and then basically kidnaps them and throws them in the basement. And so he's just got like a little collection of pizza boys in his basement that did not, in fact, deliver pizza bombs. Thankfully, they were just trying to earn a buck. And so he moves on to the next one, where the next one happens to be this a little bit of an older Asian guy who's delivering pizzas. And so he tries to shtick on that guy, except that guy also is packing heat. And it's like, hey, yeah, that's a real cute gun, but you don't have a chamber racked, and my pistol's in my hand right now, and I can shoot you, which I guess impresses USAgent. And because tropes, somehow this old Asian guy is actually like a kung fu master, and so he gets one over on USAgent, and they have this nifty little fight where USAgent gets his ass kicked, and so they decide to be teammates. And about this time is when USAgent gets activated, and he's going to go inspect the small town. He's going to go check and see what's going on. He's going to drag Pizza Guy with him because Pizza Guy literally doesn't have anything else going on. So why not? And he's got a gun, and he knows kung fu, so he can handle his own. So they're just going to go and do their thing. And another pizza delivery guy shows up, but USAgent has a flashback. I don't know. The story is very convoluted. It's very clunky. They jump in I guess a Quinjet that he had sitting around somewhere, and they go to the Virago place that had been blown up.
I'm sorry, but you trying to get through this is just about the funniest thing,
brother.
Ever.
I'm on the struggle bus with this.
Yeah,
because literally, there's not a good way to read the narrative. Like the narrative doesn't make sense.
It jumps all over the damn place, and it's just not a good story.
There are good elements to this, and like I said, I can see some of what he's trying to do. And I'm not going to, for people who might be interested in this, like part of his flashback, you start seeing some of USAgent's childhood. Apparently he had a sister, and that's going to play up into the ongoing story. But as him and Pizza Guy, Pizza Sidekick, which is his new superhero name, I just decided, they get to the Virago plant. There's some operatives that meet them. They come out of the bushes. One of them's got a shotgun. It was cool. And they have to confront one another for some reason that's going to play into the story later. But I just, like I said, they
did a thing for a reason, and then something happened for a reason, and then miraculously there was a thing there, and that's about pretty much sums up the story.
Well, and look, for folks who might be listening to this for the first time, maybe they're listening to our show for the first time, they're like, oh, this dude just can't understand, like, who is this idiot talking? I promise I'm not an unintelligent man. I have, I'm fairly adept. I have a degree in literature. Like I literally got an education in story crafting. And I understand how these works. And that's where I say, like, I can see some of what he's attempting to do, but it's just not coming through. And I don't know, this is one of those times where if you're editorial and like, don't let this out. So
just protect everybody. Yeah, this
like,
was Christopher Priest, by the way. I looked it up. So
I thought it was. I guess he's just going by Priest now.
Yeah. Or he, didn't want his full name on this. I mean, what I said earlier, I really feel like is the truth. Like, this is written by a guy that didn't want to write the story, but was somehow forced to. I mean, that's the way it comes across to me.
I mean, it came across to me like that Deathstroke run. I mean, I saw so many similarities in that Deathstroke run.
And that's where, and I agree. Like, to your point, Craig, I agree. I feel like he didn't want to write this. I don't know that it's necessarily that he didn't want it. I don't feel that his heart was in it or something, which is what I've felt about the last like 3 Christopher Priest stories that I've read. And that's what's unfortunate, because I don't think that it is the situation that he was just a hit and miss with this. I'll just do this because the guy doesn't have a lot going on. He's been doing the work over at Dynamite with their team of female characters, and so I haven't read any of that, so I don't know if he's trying to do the same thing over there. But I think this is just the way he's going to write from here on out.
Hello.
And if that's the case,
you cut out for just a minute there.
Oh shit, I'm sorry. I was saying I think that this is just the way that he's going to write from here on out. I think this is just his writing style. I think he's doubled down on it. And if that's the case, then if people like that, then that's great, because he apparently is appealing to someone. But that just means that I'm going to stop picking up Christopher Priest books. Which is unfortunate, because I like what Priest does. I like his understanding of the actual, like, he writes the stories that I generally want to see in my superhero stories. It is reflective of the world. It's holding a mirror up to the ugliness that is our society, and it's showing you how it doesn't need to be. I mean, the commentary about using Asian characters from this book and like knowing that they know Kung Fu, like he called, like, USAgent being kind of a racist dick, he keeps calling him Jackie Chan. And the guy points out, hey, like, that's like, you're just being a racist piece of shit. Like, you could stop. Like, I think that commentary is important. I think that we need to see it. And in a bubble, I like those things, like, because it is showing the difference between nationalism and patriotism. It's showing the difference between American values and the fake veneer, the facade of white supremacy that has been glossed over American values. And I think you have to keep those things in mind, because he is USAgent. And I think those things are rightfully pointed out. And I just think that the craft of actually telling the story, building the world around it, and building up the plot just doesn't work. And I don't know if he's just not paying enough attention to building it up, or that he wants to focus on those other socio-democratic issues, or what, but it's to the detriment of his storytelling, which is unfortunate.
I agree. It's just a little clunky. I think the word you were looking for was facade, by the way.
Yeah. What'd I say?
Facade.
I mean, we could go on about how bad this book is, but I'd rather just move on to stuff we liked, if we're being honest.
Yeah. One thing I did want to mention, though, I'm reading the Pizza Boy scene, and I'm like, all I could think is this like an Inspector Clouseau coming home type thing? If anybody else has seen the Pink Panther.
Yeah.
I kept trying to think that's what we were looking at here, trying to make sense out of it. Okay, that's all I got. Never mind.
No. I got nothing. I do want to say, I want to throw some happy on this book, because we've thrown some not so happy on this book. And Matt, you said it earlier, the art scenes, or the art in this book, there is zero things wrong with it. I've never read a book by I guess or at least I don't remember Jorge Jeanty, but the dude is good. Like the dude is really good. He reminds me a little bit of the guy who did the new Authority book with Warren Ellis. He's got that very thin line.
Brian Hitch.
There's a little bit of Brian Hitch there, but I was talking about the newest one.
Oh, the new one. Oh,
yeah,
sorry.
yeah.
Okay.
Hitch did that original run, which, by the way, Gold Star goes on your list for dropping that, because that's one of my favorites. But he kind of has this, there's a really thin line. He gives a texture to it. I think if you squint your eyes and you back up, there's a little bit of like a Stokoe vibe to it. But once you get into it, I think you lose the Stokoe-ness, and it's just more of a, almost like something you see out of Bond Dessinée and other European comics. His visual storytelling is really on point, and it's impressive from somebody that I haven't seen before. Like the fight choreography, the scene where him and Pete the Sidekick fight.
Sidekick.
They like that's choreographed really well, and the motion, like, it doesn't feel stiff.
No, the fight scenes were great. Yeah, fight scenes were really, really good.
And what might be the funniest thing in all of this, if you flip through the book and you look at some of the background, some of the neat little like texture that he builds the world in the background is hilarious. There's one scene where there's one of those little Felix the Cat clocks that it has a tail that wags and the eyes go back and forth. It's either a clock or a phone. In one of the opening scenes, if you look on the back wall, there's a poster, and I'm not sure what it's supposed to say, but the guy, his head's blocking enough of it that it looks like it just says poot.
Nice.
Yeah, so like there's some really fun stuff in the background of the story that it's worth your time to flip through the book to just see those things. I mean, he does some things. There's a few tangents in the lines that I would like to not see, that I generally don't like seeing in comics, that I think could have been laid out better. But other than that, just craft and quality from the art standpoint. So that's, if nothing else, that's the plus of this book that I've just discovered, and I think we all just discovered an artist that we can keep our eye on that's going to do cool things.
Word.
Yeah, I'm good.
Well, like you said, move on, talk about some things that we really did like, because we don't like to wallow in the mud. We
do not, and I don't want to tear apart anybody in their work. It just wasn't a story for me, or one that I care to continue on. So
samesies.
Yeah. I did read a book I liked this week, though.
What was it, Boo?
I read Pretty Violent number 11.
Oh, yeah?
Which, yeah. Are either of you reading this book?
I am not. No.
Yeah, this is a book that both of you should pick up and trade paperback, because it's very much got the vibe of I Hate Fairyland, but it's basically The Boys written in that style.
I remember you telling me about this when it first came out, and you definitely said, yeah, like if this has that Scotty Young Gert feel to it.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's drawn very much in that style. This is issue number 11. It's the it is the last book in this series, which is really weird to end it on number 11, but yet they did that. It's Image Comics. It's written and drawn by Derek Hunter, Jason Young, and Spencer Holt. The subtitle to this book is Pretty Violent ... with lots of swears. And boy, does it meet, that criteria within this book. So this has been the story of Gamma Ray, the preteen superhero that was raised by a family of supervillains. And to their dismay, Gamma wanted to become a superhero. So being the quote unquote good family that they are, they've helped her in this endeavor, even without her knowing, where they have helped stage some wins for her in the background, letting her beat them at different times just so she could look like a better hero than she is. Gamma is very easily manipulated. She's runs off very half-cocked And I mean, it starts in the very first issue. She sees a fight going on, assumes one thing's happening, ends up taking out the hero and letting the villain get away because she misinterprets what's happening in the fight. She makes many friends that ultimately ends up getting them killed. If they end up becoming her friends, they end up dying in the story. She's betrayed by her friends and her family along the way, and she no longer knows who to trust. So this particular issue begins with Maximum Profit, who is the leader of the quote unquote good guys, giving a speech where he's recognizing Gamma as the hero of the day who has just saved Bay City. He points out that Super Love, the superhero everyone loves, has been betraying them. And Gamma, of course, as gullible as she always is, flies off to stop Super Love without even thinking twice. After this fight, she returns to Maximum Profit, who reveals to her that he has always known who her family is, and that if she wants to remain part of the organization, she must kill her family. So I'm not going to tell you what she decides to do at that point, because I don't want to ruin the end of this series for anybody. But I do want to tell you that there's a lot more that happens in this story, including Omega Cuck, the villain, because you cannot be an alpha and be a cuck. We all know that. So his powers are he is able to spy on people, and with a name like Omega Cuck, you can imagine what he uses those powers for. The story overall wraps up nicely, and I hope that eventually they can take us back to this world when they decide they have more stories to tell. But it's when the leader of the good guys is named Maximum Profit, kind of tells you where the story is.
See this, I do need to go back and read this, and you've been telling me to forever. And I've got to get on this. But just to juxtapose this with the USAgent book, like Pretty Violence, the right way to do this, it seems like. And I'm saying that having not read it, but like pointing out the absurdity of this kind of, like you said, ultra cuck, of this weird far right wing dystopian white America comment section bullshit. Like you point out the absurdity in it, and you play that up, and like I will read it in that style right now.
This guy can create portals to alternate dimensions. He can let you visit your dead family. There's so much good he could do, and instead he chooses to watch people having sex.
Right.
That's what he does with his powers.
To be fair, that's what I do with my iPhone. So
yes, but that it's very well done. It's very well told. Again, the art style is very much in that I Hate Fairyland style. So if you like that style of art, it's very cartoony, Saturday morning cartoon style. Something you might see on Cartoon Network, honestly. But it's done really well, and there's enough. It's got. Don't mistake the style for not having adult tones to it, because it absolutely does.
Well, it's Mad TV, or it's Mad Magazine, right? Like it's that tone.
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty much what do they call it? The nighttime on Cartoon Network, Adult Swim. That's what it is. And it's real. It's only 11 issues, so it's going to be 2 trade paperbacks. Very, very easy read, but I promise you're going to enjoy this series.
I'm looking at some Jason Young art on the Google machine.
Yeah.
Right now, it really, I think it reminds me of that book that Scotty did. who's just going to be apparently a repeated name on this episode. It's the Scotty Hour. But it reminds me of that book that he did, the Bully Wars.
Yeah, that works too. Yeah, that same style.
It's that vibe, but Scotty didn't draw that. That was drawn by another guy who I think fits in this mold.
Matt,
Aaron Conley is the one.
Oh, there you go.
That. So yeah, there's a strong Aaron Conley vibe to this too. And again, I think it all pulls out of, like, I guarantee you sit folks like Jason Young down and Aaron Conley down, and you're like, tell me about your comic book origin story. They're gonna talk about the usual gang of idiots. Like, they're going to be talking about like that. Like, there's so much of that
spy versus spy type stuff.
Exactly. There's so much of that vibe in this type of art. It's just good stuff.
Yeah, Matt, I think this is something you might enjoy reading too, to be honest with you. I'm not sure how you didn't pick it up with a name like Pretty Violent.
It's
I'll
the
keep
art
my
style. Comments to myself.
So I may not know this, Matt. Are you a fan of like the Mad TV style stuff? I don't think we've ever actually sat down and spoke on that.
You mean Mad Magazine?
Yeah. Sorry.
I guess. I haven't looked at a Mad Magazine in probably over 2 decades.
Right.
So yeah, I don't feel like my opinion on it is going to be severely outdated, I suppose.
Well, I don't know that it's outdated. And I think that answers the question. It's just not something that you're drawn to, or that you have been drawn to lately. So that kind of makes sense. Okay.
Well, there's that. That was my book. I enjoyed it. If you're into that sort of Adult Swim kind of thing, this may be for you. What was that show that the creators of Robot Chicken did? The Hero Mansion thing?
Oh, I don't know.
It's that same vibe where the good guys are just kind of falling their way through it and not really that good of people.
I don't get
Mansion is the name of the story that was on there. But yeah, that same vibe.
I have not watched any Adult Swim stuff in maybe ever.
Oh. Damn.
Yeah. He doesn't like comedy, so
there's a show called Squidbillies, which I've been told I need to.
Oh man, Squidbillies was amazing.
Dude ended up being a total douchebag in real life, but
somehow that doesn't surprise me.
Primal's the new best thing on Adult Swim. It is. Primal's amazing. Yeah.
So yeah, that was my book. What do you guys got?
Caleb, you want to go?
Oh, we're breaking the mold on this one. Okay, yeah. I like it. Look at Matt.
No, you know what? I don't think so.
Oh, he giveth and he taketh away.
Okay, that's psych. Go ahead.
So I picked up. I'm going to jump in the Wayback Machine, and well, not too far way back, but in recent history, there's a book that has been sitting on my little pile of things to read. We lovingly refer to it as the Regina pile. From shout out to our EOC brethren for creating that. But this one was written originally in 2010, and the book is called Daytripper, written by Fabio Moon, and it's drawn, colored, and just crafted by Gabriel Ba. And the reason I picked this up, and I'm a little bit ashamed of myself that I hadn't read it yet, is I really do try to read books that win the shiny things. I look heavily at Eisner list. I look heavily at at industry list on who did what for those things that maybe were not pinged on my radar to check out. And this was one of those books. It won the Eisner Award for best limited series out of 2010, 2011. And I've never, I want to preface, I've never read a book like this. I've never seen a book done in this style. I mean, not necessarily artistically. Artistically, it's got kind of a Craig Thompson feel. It's got kind of a maybe Powell. If you look at his work on March, that's what Gabriel Ba's style feels like. But when I say I've never read a book like this, I mean the way that Fabio Moon crafts this collection, because it's not necessarily a story. It's all connected. It's all rooted to the same thing, but there's no, like, from one chapter to the next, there's no continuity. It's a giant what if, in this main character's life. And each one, the book starts off by him dying, which is why I say it's interesting. And I've really never read a story just quite like this. So the book focuses on this guy who, he kind of lives a middle of the road life. He's a writer in Brazil. His name's Bras, BRA with a tilde S. Bras de Olivia Domingos is his name, and he writes for a newspaper. And his job is kind of depressing, like his day job is, because he writes obituaries, and so he's constantly surrounded by negativity and by death. But he wants to be a fiction writer. Like his dad is actually a renowned writer in this world, in this story, who's celebrated for his novels, celebrated for his love stories. He writes these highbrow romance fiction that he's just renowned for. And Bras wants to be that, but he can't ever seem to make any traction. And he's lost, I guess he's lost his muse, because he's having trouble writing. And he's just constantly focusing on writing these obituaries for people that he didn't know, but that, he thinks it's an important job. And it is an important job, because he's writing these epitaphs for people, not for their own lives, but for the sake of their families. And it constantly puts him in this idea of, well, what are people going to say about me when I die, and how will I die, and how did I live? And I think that's really the work that Fabio Moon is doing with this story, is he's focusing on the texture of life. He's focusing on those moments that get written into something like an obituary, that really define us as people and are really what life is about. So at the end of the first story, like I said, not knowing where this goes, Ross dies. Like, he gets murdered, and you're like, well, what the fuck? Where's the story going to go from here? Because this dude that I just kind of fell in love with, this character that I really, I need to know that he's got he's going to get a happy ending. He's got a story here that is very compelling. You just killed him. It was kind of the, for a poor bridge to pop culture, it was a Ned Stark kind of thing. You're just like, well, shit, I thought he was the main character. In this case, Bras is the main character, though, and this is where I say the story does something interesting and that I've never read before. When the next chapter starts, Bras is alive, but he's at a different age. Each one of these stories opens up when he's, at a different age in his life, and it's all literally, here's the story of the day that Bras died this time. You get the story of how he met, him and his best friend took a trip to Salvador, and there was this in Salvador, there's this festival. It's where they send these baskets out to sea, to thank the dead. It's basically an old school gift to the sea god of that time. And the day before that, they're out swimming in the sea, and Bras swims out too far, and there's these boats anchored. He climbs up in the boat, and it just so happens he climbs up in this boat where there's this gorgeous, voluptuous, Celine dark-skinned woman who is, just his fantasy. And he falls in love with her immediately, and they spend the day together. And he goes back to look for her the next night, and he goes out in a boat to help push some of these offerings to the sea goddess out to sea, and something happens, and he slips into the water, and he drowns. But as you read, like, as you're going through the stories, you know that in most versions of his life, he and this woman actually do fall in love. They do build a life together. They do get married. And depending on how long he lives in that world, depends on how long their relationship lasts. And in another story, another chapter, they open up and it's him and her, and they've lived together the same year for 7 years, and they've built a life, and their marriage is unfortunately in this section is coming to an end. And she moves out, she takes everything, and it kind of breaks him a little bit. But he's able to move on. Like he sees he meets a new woman, and he rebuilds this life. And as you know, one day he's going to talk to her. He can't wait to go see her, and he doesn't realize that he's walking through a crosswalk and the light's red for him, and he gets hit by a bus. You know, there's another story where that didn't happen, and he's a little bit older. And he's built this life with this new woman, and she's pregnant, and she's having a baby. She's having their baby, and you know, she starts to go into labor. And you know, they do all the things that you do when that happens, and you get your baby bag and you get everything, and you're going to the hospital, and his mom starts calling him. But he doesn't have time. He'll call her from the hospital, right? Like he just hits the shady button on the cell phone. And she leaves a voicemail. And when he gets to the hospital, they get everything settled in, and they get his wife there and sat down. He looks out the window, and he sees his mom there, and he's like, oh shit, like, how did, maybe she just knew, maybe she had a mother's intuition. Why is she at the hospital? And so like she's outside smoking, and he goes, and she turns around and she's like, oh, you got my message? And he's like, no, I didn't get your message, but how did you know to be here? She's like, like, why are you here? And he's like, well, wifey's in labor. And she's like, oh baby, like your dad died. He was in his office writing, and that's why I'm here. They tried to save him, and they didn't make it. He's gone. And this is his father. This is his man that he really based most of his life on, that he's always attempted to emulate, to make proud, to follow. And in some ways he wanted that level of success that he measured his own life off of. And so while he's ushering in the life of his child, he's had to say goodbye to his dad at the same time. And his dad died of a heart attack while writing his new novel. And mom is obviously heartbroken, and he doesn't know how to tell his wife. He doesn't want to tell her because she doesn't need to know that her father-in-law died while she's trying to go into labor. So he's trying to protect that. And he needs to, the mother says, oh, your dad kept your baby blanket, and he, like, it's by the door at home. He wanted to see his grandson wrapped in that blanket, same one he wrapped you in. I'm too upset to drive, but can you go get it? And I'll stay here with your wife. And if anything happens, I'll call you. But it's going to be a little bit before anything happens, before she has this baby. So you've got time. Just go get it, and bring it here. It's really important to me, to our family. And he's like, well, I don't want to miss the birth of my child, but mom's just not. She's like, hey, look, just go do it. And so he does. And as he enters, he goes to his mom's house, and he goes downstairs to get the baby blanket, and he goes into his dad's office, the same office where his dad passed away. He's staring at things that hit the floor whenever his dad had the heart attack, and just the stress of losing his dad and new fatherhood, and his mother's heartbreak, and his own personal measure of himself through this man gets to him, and he just goes downhill, and that's that he life. But no, all the stories aren't sad. There's some times where there's a story where he dies peacefully. There's a story like there's just, but the death is not the focal point of this book. The focal point is the relationships and the joyous moments. It's about love. It's about light. It's about life. It's about like I said earlier, the texture that gives our experiences meaning. It's about remembering the first time you made love. It's about remembering, like holding your child for the first time. It's about remembering the fights that you have with family that you make up with, and you move on. And those are the things that really fill our days, and the things that at the end of it, when we're having an obituary written by either ourselves or somebody else, that really show that the measure of what your life was worth, to yourself, if not to anybody else. and I think it was just beautiful. I don't know how to say it any other way. It was just a beautiful book. And kind of like everybody else, it's been an incredibly anxious week. There's a lot of shit going on in America. There's a lot of shit going on in my own life that has caused no end of anxiety. And I know the same is true for both of you guys and for a lot of folks out there in the world. And so this was just a story that I needed. I needed this in this moment. And again, I didn't know what it was about. I knew it had won an Eisner Award. I've heard people who have said really cool things about it, who've waxed poetic and said it was amazing, but I didn't really understand it until I picked it up and I started flipping through the pages, and I realized that this was a narrative unlike anything I'd ever seen. And it really just, it took me out of the grandiosity of the moments of last week, waiting for election results, weird political arguments, stuff going on within my own family, to just center down and say, hey, look, think about these moments. Think about these quiet moments in your day, the quietude of life that bring you joy, that have brought you joy. Center on those things and drown that other stuff out, because it's cliche to say, but we're not guaranteed forever. It's really the moments that we've already experienced that we should focus on, and that we should that bring us light, that bring us love, that build our lives. And in that sense, as I was reading this book, I quit having a panic attack for the first time in about a month. And I realized that me personally, I've been living in this constant state of stress, and fear and anxiety. And I've been a walking anxiety attack for the past month. And it's caused problems for me and for the people around me, and it's led me to, in many ways, neglect myself and neglect my husband, and everything. And this book really centered me and let me breathe. It also happened to coincide with a moment that I think let everybody else breathe. And there was just an energy in that, but I needed this book in this moment. And it's weird how comics work that way. It's weird how sequential art and how this visual medium can connect us to those things in just the right moment. And it's not the first time it's happened. I mean, Craig and I have had this conversation where he's had those same moments in his life where, for no reason, he just connects in the moment with something that he's reading. But
yeah, I mean, it happens to all of us. That's why we looked outside medium.
Yeah.
To find a distraction from the real world. I think, that's probably been a case for all of us at different points in our life. I'm glad you went on to explain, because I was about to give you a hard time about saying that you were looking for, some peace. So you found it in this dude's story about death.
Right. Yeah, I mean, that's the thing is on paper, you're like, oh, I really don't want to read a book about this much sadness right now. But the thing is the sadness isn't there. It's a happy book. It's a happy book built on a foundation of sadness, of loss, I think is maybe a better word. But it makes it, for me, it focused on the important parts that bring life joy. And yeah, I mean, it's been a long time since I've read a comic that made me cry, and this book did that, but in a refreshing way. I don't know if that makes sense.
It does.
On a less serious,
I don't think books make Matt cry unless they have lots of gratuitous violence.
Matt sees a quality headbutt and that man sheds a tear.
Yeah, I got a little misty. I went back and picked up the first run of Punisher Max. And I got a little misty.
On
Awesome.
a less serious note, I think everybody, you guys definitely know, and everybody who listens to this show should know, I'm very much solidified on Team Homo. I'm not going to not be gay, but the way that Gabriel Ba draws these women, these South American, Brazilian bombshells, I could hula hoop with the heteros for at least a day, because these women are sexy.
With the
Brazilians.
heteros.
Like,
all right, there you have it.
there's a scene where they've like I said, he crawls up in the boat with the woman that he meets at the festival, and they fuck in the boat. And it's she has got curves in all the right places, and he ain't bad looking either. I mean, like young Bros was felt like they could have both got it. I'd crawl in the boat with both of them. But dude, like, just gorgeous bodies on these people. So for the eye candy alone, if you don't want the fifis, come for the eye candy because you'll get it.
Fifis and eye candy. That's what Caleb's selling this week.
Fucking in boats.
Awesome, man. I'm glad that you found a book that gave you a distraction from the real world.
Yeah, dude. It was
whatever form it took.
You just reminded myself to breathe for a minute. So pick up Daytripper.
Awesome.
Will not be disappointed.
Awesome. Matt,
right.
What do you got, buddy?
The book I was going to mention, I mentioned this a few shows ago when I was about halfway through it. I recently picked up the first trade from Avatar Press, Dr. Sleepless.
This is not the book I thought you were going to talk about this week.
Engines of Desire is the subtitle of this book. This is by Warren Ellis and Ivan Rodriguez. This is a story about, I would say that the main character is a throwback to the classic mad scientist villain that has been around for a long time. That's one of my personal favorite villain tropes that I wish was used more prevalent. It's kind of like, that's why I continue to like Dr. Octopus the most out of all of Spider-Man's villains, simply for that reason. But this book takes place in New York City, and the theme behind this book is people not getting the future, feeling like they did not get the future they were promised their entire lives. Like the tagline throughout the book that you see a lot is, "Where is my flying car?" Because that is something that has been predicted that we're all going to have. That's been predicted for about the past 60 years. We're all going to have these flying cars in the year, and then you fill in the blank. So what this character in this Dr. Sleepless character does in this story in New York City, first of all, he is designed, again, like a tropey mad scientist. He's got the goggles on that he wears for really no apparent reason. He's not in a lab concocting chemicals that he actually needs goggles, but he sports these mad scientist goggles. He's got the doctor's coat. But what he does is he hijacks a local radio station and broadcasts these diatribes all around the idea of where is the future we were promised. And what he wants people to do, and what he does himself, is he looks for what he calls glimpses of the future, like advances in certain kinds of technology, stories that surface about certain kinds of technology. And he's trying to encourage people to gravitate towards where these things are happening and give these things a lot of attention and a lot of their energy. Because if you do that, then you can direct your own future. You can direct where technology goes and what you'll have. So, for example, the flying car, when those things, when an inventor or a company starts designing such things, he encourages people to take notice and then devote a lot of their time and attention to that, because that's going to drive more time and attention to it. And it's going to be like an inertia that takes over, and this thing will become a reality. Kind of, like when the internet really started gaining steam, more and more people started devoting time and energy to it, and it just became this inertia and an unstoppable force. And that's what he's trying to direct people to do. And he, his argument is, if you do this enough, you can create the future that you want, because there's little glimpses of the future that pop up all the time. And within this New York subculture, there's a lot of drugs, a lot of using technology to kind of make your own somewhat fetish lifestyle. Not necessarily like a sexual fetish, but just like you have like this technology fetish, and groups of people start gravitating towards each other that share their own types of technology fetishes. So it's a very, very Warren Ellis story. I mean, this is just right down the main line, right down the main street of Warren Ellis Town is what this whole story feels like. But it is unique. I mean, it's a unique story that if you're looking for something different that's not in the superhero genre, this is a book that's going to give you that. It's a technology driven. And it also points out some things. There's a really funny moment where when this Dr. Sleepless is kind of working his way to be this character, he goes out and he seeks out people that are known as like gurus in this type of thing. Gurus of the future, gurus in, psychedelics that give you a window into your own soul and introspective. Well, so he takes a trip to South America to go see this guy who's got one of these reputations. And this guy is deep in the South American jungle. He finds him. The guy's living in a tent, wearing a pair of Levi jeans. And, he finds out this guy is not some kind of mystical guru. He's a guy that lives in a tent and sells drugs. You can hang out and do them with him if you want. And the dialogue between these two is hilarious. Because, he's like telling him, he's like, feel free to use your cell phone if you want. It's pretty cool when you're taking drugs. The guy's supposed to be a psychedelic guru, and he's not exactly connected to the elevated plane. He's wearing designer jeans because he gets some knockoff on eBay. So
maybe you said this and I missed it. Who was the artist on this one?
Ivan Rodriguez.
Okay.
Yeah. He was a regular in the Avatar stable back in the day.
Yeah. And I remember these books when they came out, and I think I read the first couple of this, and I don't know why I didn't finish it, but yeah.
Probably because it's so fucking weird.
I mean, quite possibly.
It's weird. This story is so weird. And that's like, where is this going as I was reading it? But it's, there's a lot of unexpected humor in the book too, as Warren Ellis is really good at doing.
Right.
I did not read this one, and I should have. I read a lot of Warren Ellis. I read a lot of Warren Ellis at Avatar, but I did not read this. But like you said, the idea of a tech fetish, that's pretty much Warren Ellis's tagline.
Oh yeah. That's the main street he lives on.
Yep. Very few people understood the internet in the way that Warren Ellis did in its early days, and I think you see that in some of the way that he crafted the Warren Ellis forums online, and honestly, if we're talking about comics, like modern comics and modern comics creator, that was such an important place for the current people making comics. That's Kelly Sue and Matt Fraction met on that and got married. That's where a lot of people came from. But he, and you mentioned earlier the stuff that he did with Brian Hitch, The Authority, and the way that he mapped that out. Very few people understood the potential, both positive and negative, of online culture than Warren Ellis did, and the damage and the benefit that connection could have on society. I've got to go find this, because this is one of the few blind spots in Avatar that I have.
If I'm not mistaken, all those Avatar books have been on sale, so it should be fairly cheap to find them as well.
I would think so.
Yeah, I got this one for $5.
Yeah, I was gonna say they've been putting all their trades on sale, like super cheap to get. So
this is cool shit.
Awesome, man. This came out about the same time Black Summer did, didn't it?
It was it was very close to that. There was Black Summer, Dr. Sleepless, and there was another series that Warner Ellis did. That
Captain
was in this
Electric or something like that.
It was. Yeah, it wasn't called Captain Electric, but
it was a Captain. Yeah, but it was something where the dude went around on a blimp, basically.
Yeah.
Was it before or after he wrote the Strange Kisses or Strange Killing book?
Well, I think it was around the same time. He was doing that Strange Killing Gravel series. Strange Killings and Gravel's the same thing. He was doing all that like intermittently. So I mean, it was all he was writing several things, hitting stop start throughout the same time period.
Gotcha.
Wolfskin, all that stuff.
Yeah. I don't think Avatar would have made it in the early days without Warren Ellis.
Yeah. I mean, I think there's a strong argument to that between he and Garth Ennis.
Yeah.
I think they were really, really driving their main sales.
They actually had Hickman early on too.
As God is Dead series.
Yep. But he only wrote 6 issues of that. And then it switched over to
Justin Jordan.
Well, Justin
or was
Jordan
that Cy Spurrier?
Cy Spurrier wrote part of it. Justin Jordan wrote part of it. And then I forget off the top of my head who did the bulk of it, but it wasn't either one of those creators, but they did take a turn with a part of it. Hell, that's actually, that's actually how I met Justin, and Justin and I got to be friends was through that series. I went to New York Comic-Con in 2012 and I bought my tickets through Avatar. And so I got entry into all of their stuff and got to hang out with folks. That's how I got to eat a sandwich with Garth Ennis, which is my claim to fame. Is that
I think that's what Avatar's press main goal was, to create friendships.
And beautifully, and based on beautiful, touching, really heartfelt stories.
I believe that's what their mission statement was.
See also cross.
Yeah.
Well, nice. Now I got homework to do. Go find this and devour it because I needs it. We got anything else we want to talk about before we jump
new books?
I am really shocked before we move on that you did not talk about Wolverine, Black, White, and Blood.
So I really thought about it, but I was trying to come up with something. Bring attention to something from the past,
something
different angle, something original. But it was a struggle, brother. Let me tell you, it was a struggle.
I will tell you that based on that Wolverine book, I only want my Wolverine books in the future to be drawn in black and white and red.
That was cool, wasn't it?
It was amazingly done.
My favorite part about what just happened, and it is actually what just happened, is in order to not be predictable, Matt did a Warren Ellis book.
yeah. Kind of a fail. But,
no, it worked because you were not predictable, because I too thought you were going to do the Wolverine story, and in order to shirk your predictability, you spoke about a Warren Ellis book.
That is the definition of irony right there.
Well, all right. Well, next week, as Craig alluded to, new books are coming out, and
that was actually, you gave me credit for something earlier that wasn't me, but this was also Matt that alluded to this a minute ago.
No, Craig is the one that demanded we talk about you at John Walker, USAgent.
That's right. That's what it was. That's what it was.
I absolutely did. Absolutely. That's exactly what happened.
Shared experience
yes
of pain.
I'm gonna start taking a video of Matt and I discussing the books of the week. Sorry, continue on, Caleb.
No, I like
the story.
Next week, next Wednesday, Tuesday and Wednesday, as always, new books are going to hit the shelf, and we don't know if they're going to be good or bad. We like to gamble. We take a guess on what might be coming out that is going to strike our fancy. Is either the continuance of a series that we love or it's something brand new. And so we tell you a little bit about it in hopes that you will go out and take a chance, read it, and really come back and let us know what you thought. We want to hear from you. We that's part of why we do this, is to build a community of folks who want to talk about things that they enjoyed, or to talk about the comics that they've read. With
Aaron has been doing a really good job of that.
Shout out, he sure has. That dude has been on our Facebook page dropping
and
gems.
He's going to be really upset that none of us talked about crossover.
That is, I will probably end up talking about that book at least once I've gotten it read. And to be fair, that probably should have been our book of the week in hindsight, but hindsight's 2020 and foresight's not.
You know what it was, is we were looking at the books on the wall and it wasn't on the wall.
These things happen. I blame both of you for it, but these things do happen. You're both on. Like I'm taking away Matt's gold star that I gave him earlier, just because.
Bullshit.
But you can do all that. You can come tell us about these books if you liked them, disliked them, within reason. On our Facebook group that that Craig was just talking about. It actually is Craig that said it this time. You can join us there, Southern Fried Geekery Podcast on Facebook. We're always there. Always want to know what you have to say. Come join us and talk about it. You can also follow us on Instagram and Twitter. We're at SFG Podcast on both of those. So check us out. Talk to us. We want to hear from you. It's part of what we love about comics culture is talking about these things. It's what brought us all together. So Craig, why don't you lead us off and tell us what you're going to grab next week?
Okay, I'll start us off. I'm going to suggest Punchline #1 from DC Comics. This is the new character that's spinning out of the Joker War. It's Tynan the Fourth, John Zandolfo. Just for the art alone, with Zandolfo on it, it's going to be worth picking up this book. So that's my suggestion.
Nice. Well, in order of appearance, I guess I'll go next, since we changed this up, bringing the chaos in early, Matt. See what you did there. There is a series. I picked up the first issue. I think I spoke about the first issue. I really enjoyed it. I'm curious to see where it goes. It's called Getting It Together. The second issue comes out this next week. I'm about it. This is Sina Grace, Omar Spahi, and Jeanty Fine. Just the blip on it. Is it really possible to be friends with your ex? Sam and Lauren try to work things out while Jack dives deeper into dating apps, which brings more surprises from his past than he expected. So essentially, and I said this when I spoke about it, it's a lot like a modern take on Friends, but A, it's actually funny, and B, it's not all just straight white people. So I really enjoyed the first issue. I think Sina Grace is a good writer. I enjoy a lot of what Sina Grace does. He has a special kind of dry humor in his books that I find amusing. So check out Getting It Together. It's from Image Comics.
Well, the book I'm looking forward to is from Marvel Comics. This is Taskmaster #1 from Jed MacKay and Alessandro Vitti. Villain books always get my attention. I really, really appreciate a good villain book. And in this one, apparently Taskmaster has been falsely accused of murdering Maria Hill. And apparently there's a #1 spy in the world chasing down Taskmaster on that basis. So I'm going to check this out. Hopefully it's another good villain book that Marvel offers. They've put out some good ones. They put out some that, in my own humble opinion, weren't so good. But I'm going to hope this one's one of their home runs.
I left that one for you, Matt. You're welcome.
It looks cool. It does. It looks really. I don't think that, like, and this may be a hot take, I think Taskmaster is one of the best villains as far as design, like the visible design from Marvel. Maybe not the best characters, but like just as far as like what he looks like on the page, one of the coolest looking villains from Marvel.
I think he's a very underused villain for what his abilities are. He should be used more often.
Yep.
Well, it's difficult to write for that reason.
Yeah.
Did either one of you buy the Marvel game that came out, the Avengers game that hit this season?
No.
Taskmaster actually is in that game, and his design for the video game is cool as shit. Roger was playing it, and
he was really good in the his appearance in the Sony Spider-Man game was really good.
Yeah, yep. It's cool. That, like I said, visually speaking, that dude's rad looking. So I'm gonna check those out.
Nice.
All right. Well, cool. Can we call an audible for
Sure.
next week? I want to know what you guys think about this. What if instead of talking about a roundtable comic, we talk about a roundtable episode, and we all get caught up on Mandalorian, and because we haven't spoken about Mandalorian, and I really need Matt.
You just triggered me on purpose.
So I want to make an executive producer decision and say that next week we're talking about Mando as the roundtable.
The only caveat to that is I may or may not be on the show next week.
Oh, that's true. I didn't think about that.
There's no fucking way I'm talking about Mandalorian if Craig is not on the show.
No. Okay, you're right. Nope. We'll pause that.
If I'm on the show, let's do that. Otherwise, we'll figure something else out.
All right, I like it. They call it an audible for a reason, so we'll put a pin in that, as people say. I don't know who people are, but they say it.
Audibles and pins and what's I'm so confused. No, I'm playing.
Well, all right. We hope you have enjoyed this last hour of banter, of just a couple of guys who are friends to get together and talk about the things we've read. It is usually, as most of the time, is the highlight of my week. Sometimes we like what we read. Sometimes what we read is not the best. But
Craig.
With that being said, that doesn't mean it's without merit and not worth discussing. So even though for a roundtable this week we all sided on the meh kind of things, doesn't mean there aren't really good things in it to discuss. So that that's why we do it, and it's not to drag it through the mud. But come back next week, same time, same place. We'll be here. And we'll go from there to see what we liked and we disliked. We will hope you will join us. It's a good time. Check out the social media pages that we have spoken about. We'd like to see you there. Like to know what's happening in your world. And if nothing else, have a great week. Keep your head up. Go forth and love some comics.
Woo!
Also, wash your hands. Keep doing that. Like, we shouldn't stop washing our hands.
Wash your whole body too.
That's true, but like wash your hands more.
Bathe, shower.
Yeah.
Hygiene, brush your teeth.
Disinfect.
Yeah. Don't forget to comb your hair.